Hello, today we are doing lesson 4, which is I can solve and apply percent equations. Today we're looking at percent change. So we have this formula that we're using. To get our percent as a decimal right here, we need to figure out how much are we increasing or decreasing. So usually your original minus your total, so we're adding or subtracting. And then divided by always our original amount. So let's look at an example. It says, during the summer, a bear's heart rate is about 60 beats per minute, but it can drop to as low as 8 beats per minute during the winter. What is the percent of change in a bear's heart rate from the summer to the winter? So we need to figure out the percent. That's what they're asking us for, the percent. So we need to figure out first how much did it change, and then we can figure out what is the actual percent. So it started out at 60 and it went down to 8. So we took the original minus the new to figure out, well, how much did it change? And then we're going to divide by the original amount. It's usually 60 beats per minute. So 60 minus 8 is going to give us 52. And 52 divided by 60 will give us how much it changes as a percent. We know the heart rate changes 52 beats per minute different from the summer to the winter, but we want to know what is that change represented as a percent. And yes, it does get really down to 8 beats per minute because bears go into hibernation, remember? During the winter. So we need to just divide this, 52 divided by 60. And we get 0.86 repeating. So our number, if we had used an X here or something to represent that, the percent change is 0.86. But remember, this is our percent as a decimal, so we need to multiply by 100 to get to our fraction, or sorry, not our fraction, our percent. So if we multiply by 100, it moves our decimal 2 spots. So we have 86.6%. If you want to round it up to 86.7%, that's fine. So a bear's heartbeat changes 86% of what it normally was at. It decreases 86%. Let's take a look at a couple other examples. This next one will be a little bit easier because the numbers are more similar. A school had an enrollment of 870 students last year. This year, 825 students enrolled. What is the percent of change in the enrollment? So to figure out our percent, we need to figure out the difference, meaning we're subtracting, between the two, out of the original amount. Can't spell today, O-R-I-G-I-N-E-L. So our percent we don't know, but we know that there were 870 students and now there's only 825. So we're going to subtract, that's difference means subtract, to figure out, 825, I'm struggling here today, to figure out how much did it change out of the original 870. So 870 minus 825 is 45 students. So the population only changed 45 students out of a total of 870. If we divide that, that'll give us our percent as a decimal, which is, I'm just going to move this a little bit to the side here. It gives us 0.05. If we do one more decimal, if we round it, it'd be 2. And so 1/7, but we'd round it to 2. But if we convert that to a percent, because this is always written as a decimal, remember, we can multiply by 100, which is really 5.2%. If you just did one decimal there, it'd be 5%. Which makes sense because 45 students really isn't that many out of almost 900. So 5% is the amount that the population or the enrollment changed. Next, it says from October to November one year, The attendance at Everglades National Park increased by about 27.4%. There were 59,084 visitors in October. How many people visited in November? So this one is actually a two-part question. First, we're going to figure out the total number of people in November. We know that it increased 27.4%. So let's start by writing that in our as our percent. So as a decimal, we're really dividing by 100 because it's 27.4% out of 100%. So our decimal would be 0.274. We know that the original number of people that visited in October was 59,084. We don't know the amount that the population changed. We don't know how many people there were different, but we know the total number, the original number in October, was 59,000. We don't know the difference between the two populations. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Well, how many more people or how many less people were there? We know there's going to be more people because the population is increasing. So to get the answer, the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we're really multiplying by 59,084. So those eliminate. And the amount that our population is changing, 59,084 times 0.274 is 16,189, and there's a 0.016, but if we're talking about people, we'd round that to the nearest whole number, which is 16,189. So this is how much the population changed. From October to November, the population changed by 16,000 people. That was 27% more people. They want to know, though, how many people visited in November. So we know in October there were 59,084 people, but it changed or went up 16,189 people. So if we add those together, we can get our total. So with total people in November, we have 75,273. This one was a little bit tricky. Instead, if you did our other percent equation, simply doing part equals the total times the percent as a decimal, you're really getting the same thing. We're figuring out the part that it changed. So we really just did 59,084 times the percent as a decimal, which was 0.274, to get the part that changed. Either way, you get the same answer. We are focusing on our percent change equation, the amount of increase or decrease. So we want to know right here, how much did it change? You just subtract. All right, the rest of this should, for the most part, be a review. It says use a proportion or the percent equation to find the recommended daily value of carbohydrates a person should have each day. So we're looking at carbohydrates right here. Carbohydrates should be 8%. We know that we're getting 23 grams. So that's the part that we're getting from these pretzel twists. So I'm going to use the percent equation that we just talked about. Because it doesn't say percent change. We don't need to figure out how much our carbohydrates change. We just want to know how much should they have in a day? How much total should a person get? So we know the part that we're eating is 23 grams. We don't know the total, but we know we're getting 8%. So remember, this always has to be written as a decimal. So 8% is 8% out of 100%, which would be, oops, not 0.08, that's 80%, 0.08. Be careful. So So if we solve this to figure out x, how much total a person should get in a day, the opposite of multiplying is divide. So this is going to be a big number. 23 divided by 0.08 is 287.5. Which makes sense that it should be a lot bigger than 23 because 23 was only 8% of what we need. 287.5 grams of carbohydrates is all of what we need, the total of what we need. Let's try another one. This one says the daily recommended intake of iron is 12 milligrams. How many milligrams of iron are in one serving of pretzels? So here's iron way down at the bottom here. We want to know how many milligrams are there in one serving. So we don't know how much we're getting from the pretzel twist. That's what we're trying to figure out. We don't know the part that we're eating, but we know in one day the whole thing that you should eat is 12 milligrams. And we know that we're getting 8% from our pretzel twist. So 8%, same as up here, it's still 0.08. So we need to figure out, well, 12 times 0.08, that will give us the part that we get from the pretzel twist. So our answer, when we multiply those, the part that we get is 0.96, which actually does make sense. We are not getting very much total in a day. So if we're getting 8% of a really small amount, we are getting almost 1 milligram, but not very much at all. Last question. It says the recommended daily value of dietary fiber is 25 grams. If they're telling you daily value, that means the whole thing in one whole day. How much you get in one day. That's the total amount that you should get. How many grams are in the serving of pretzels? So we're looking for fiber. Fiber right here, dietary fiber is 4%. So the part is the total times our percent as a decimal. So the total in one day is 25 grams. We don't know how many grams we're getting from the pretzel twist, but we know it's 4%. So as a decimal, it's 4/100ths. We're divide by 100 because it's 4% out of 100%. So the part that we are getting from the pretzel twist, 25 times 0.04, is 1. Let me just double check that. 25 times 0.04. Yeah, 1 gram. So in our pretzel twist, we are getting 1 gram of fiber, and you need 25 grams total in a day. All right, if you have questions, please let me know. Part of this is using percent increase, and part of it is just a review using your percent equation from right there. So if they're asking you for a percent change, you need to subtract to figure out